Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I'm going to do a short study of process in How to Draw Comics, the Marvel Way book. So in this book, it does the traditional stick figure to cylinders to shapes and then to the final product, but also shows one where it's more of a scribbly approach, where you kind of really work to get your lines in a fast motion and you're just really messy with it. And then you go back in and figure out which lines you want, which lines you don't. You can kind of discard those. So it kind of talks about how that's similar to building a figure out of clay, where you're just really working it until you get the line and the shape you want. So this will just be a quick demo of me working through that process, and hopefully you find this helpful. If so, please like and subscribe, and let's get started. So here I'm in Krita, and I have got my file set up already, and I don't use Krita a lot in my workflow. I'm going to start implementing it more. I haven't been happy with the way Clip Studio Paint and Photoshop have been going as far as companies and programs. So, and I also feel like Krita's brushes are really nice to use. They feel really close to me to pencil, like working on a regular pencil and paper. So I really enjoy that. I'm also using as my shortcut tool the Wacom ExpressKey, which I'll probably do a review on at some point. I don't think enough people know that you don't have to use this with a Wacom product. You do have to have the drivers, but I can use this with anything. I use it a lot to edit my videos with DaVinci Resolve, and it worked great. It's one of the best shortcut tools I've used, and I've used a few, including the Clip Studio TabMate. I just think this works better. So I'll probably do a review on that in the future, but I like that it allows me to kind of keep my hands off my keyboard, so I just have to worry about this and the pencil. So this is the information from Drawing Comics the Marvel Way, and this is one example showing the stick figure to shapes to final product. And so I'm going to show you the scribble option next. But I do want to mention, if you look at these, how good the figures look and how little detail there is. Like, there's not every muscle shown. Matter of fact, there's barely any compared to, modern, which I love modern comics. I'm just looking at this and thinking how much they do with so few lines. Like Spider-Man's hardly defined at all. So that is also something I want to keep in mind for my future workflow. I just want to be able to do more simplistic drawings, especially I do like animating or learning to animate. And I think the simpler drawing lends itself better to that anyway. So creating a style that uses, as minimal lines as possible would really be helpful. So on these pages, you can see the scribble approach I was talking about. And they kind of start with the stick figure look, but it's much more rough. And they're still kind of figure out the form and where everything's going to go. And then they kind of scribble in more. And then you kind of really work on the lines you think are working and kind of erase some of the lines that aren't. And one of the problems I've had with my style, if you can call it a style, is I like to almost subconsciously just go over my lines. And it really creates a really rough, to me, somewhat unattractive look. It's never polished looking. So hopefully I can incorporate this style more to get the look I'm going for while still not fighting against how I work. Although I think I could train myself to not work like that if I really gave it some effort. So I'm going to turn that off. Here's the reference image I chose. And this is available on DeviantArt, and you can see the information here about it, but I'm also going to post it in the description. And this is free poses these two people do, and I'd recommend checking them out. There was a lot of stuff on there. I thought this was more of a dramatic pose, so I wanted to try this one. I'm going to be messier than normal just to see how well I think this works. And by normal, I mean I'm pretty messy to start with. I do think this, I don't know if you can get the end result you want this way, but I do think it feels a whole lot looser and more like, sketching than the cylinder block method. I think part of the difference is if you've ever written before. There's two types of writers, they say. There's pantsers and then there's outliners. And the outliners go in and they outline everything before they even write the first word. But some issues you come into with that is that your book doesn't seem as spontaneous because you've figured everything out before you even started. So your structure is a lot better, but your end result doesn't feel quite as natural. So the other one, pantsers, which means they fly by the seat of their pants, they don't do any outlines beforehand. So their books feels a lot more spontaneous. However, they a lot of the times go down different routes of their book that ends up not going anywhere, and they have to backtrack and start over. And, it takes them longer to figure out where things are going. So it does give it a more spontaneous feel, but the end result's messier and harder to get to. So I think drawing like this is kind of like that. It's a lot more freeing, but I think to get the end result you want, it may be a little more difficult. So again, I'm really being way messier than normal and adding stuff in, partly what I'm looking at and partly how I know, my drawing style is. I can tell already this is way bigger than the reference material, so I'm going to have to shrink this down. It's almost like speed sketching. And I'm probably not going to finish this. I just want to see if I can get, the general form down that would then be usable to trace over. So I'm going to reduce the size of this a bit. And then keep going. I wish the Marvel book, which, again, I had it as a kid, is probably the first art book I ever bought as far as how to draw type books. I wish they had a few more examples like this, especially with, John Buscema's artwork is just, really great to look at. So seeing that process from him a little more would have been nice. But, the book does cover a lot of material in a very short time, so there's only so much they could offer, I think. But I feel like it would definitely need to be on any person's bookshelf that is, wants to work or wants their work to have a comic book look. I think it's one of the more definitive guides. I have the DC series, how to write, how to draw, how to digitally draw, how to color. Unfortunately, that's out of print now, so you'd have to get them used. I haven't looked at those as much. I need to. Come out of this. And you can come in and erase, kind of clean that up just a little bit. So that's going to come in, out. And then once you have the base anatomy down, you could build on this figure like if, if if I wanted this to be a Dr. Octopus-like figure, I've got the basis now. I could start adding some weight to him since he's a larger character. But I know from looking at this that my proportions are pretty good. My anatomy is pretty good. So that gives the basis for, anything you want to do. It's kind of freeing too to work this quick and this messy. I definitely think this would be great for warm-ups for sure, especially if you just want to quickly put some poses together. So then once you have everything in place this way, I know in the book he's drawing on paper, but you could easily just add another layer, go back to that layer, reduce the opacity, and then you could start, filling in the lines that look good. Because to me, the hardest part, and again, you should probably work messy to finished, is getting the proportions right. Once you've got the proportions right, it's easy to build on top of that. But if you don't have the proportions right, no matter how pretty your line work is, it's always going to look a little bit off. And this is probably as far as I'm going to take this one. I haven't given it much thought past getting the pose down. Clearly that's way off. Okay, I think that looks pretty good for a starting point. And again, I was much messier than normal. I think quick strokes look better. I have this issue where I want to scroll in and just add every little detail, but I actually think these quick lines look a lot more natural. It would be better to build on rather than, really close up intricate lines that I'm drawing. So hope this little session helped. Again, I think one of my biggest issues is wanting to be very disciplined with my line work and really struggle to get it perfect when actually these quick lines look more free and more natural. So I may try to incorporate that more in my work. So hopefully you found this video helpful. If so, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.